This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everyone. Welcome to a very wet, overcast, rainy, drizzly Djuma private game reserve, but I'm very much hoping that the sun bursts through. I'm in the mood for some sun. But on a positive note, we're out on Wendy. We are out and about and I am overjoyed. My name is Lauren. I do have Davi on camera, and as I switch around, I'm just going to do an earpiece switch. There we go. And we're just going to give you a view of the clouds rolling in. Definitely rain clouds. We've already been drizzled on. Drizzle is okay. Torrential downpour is not okay. I went through 4 different shirts yesterday. Each and every one got soaking. So we're hoping to stay a little bit dry and hoping to have a very good sunrise safari. So on that note, the sunrise safari is live and it is interactive. So please do talk to us. Send in your comments and relevant questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Or if you're on the WildEarth website, as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions under the live safari page. And kids, if you're watching, please do send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. So we're going to keep bumbling, try that good old hyena den. We had Heart yesterday on her way to the den. And then there was absolutely a torrential downpour. Our equipment is already fragile, so we need to protect it as much as we can. But my 2 aims over the next few days are really going to be Hyena Den and Tlalamba. That's what I'm going to try and focus on. That's what I want to focus on. And of course, see what we can find along the way. Susie C, you're saying it's a great day for a great drive. Absolutely, and it's going to be. I'm just happy I'm not on the tram cam. It was wrong Kongs FC. But yes, I'm just overjoyed to be out and about, even if we do get rained on. I'm very, very happy. Wendy is good to go. So naturally, we always start off the day driving south on Twin Dams Road to try and get to the Hyena Den, but I happen to just love it. It's one of the roads that I would have always checked anyway, even if the Hyena Den was not on this road. And see what we can find along the way. There was leopard tracks, female leopard tracks, walking up Philemon's cut line towards the Bush Brae side yesterday, and I naturally tried to follow up, but I was not successful. So someone is around. As I bumble south, let's take a look at the weather.
Bit of a clearing here, just looking at the weather as well. So it said light rain this morning, and in the distance it looks quite misty, so I'm not too sure whether that would just be a mist or the actual light rain that we can be expecting, but we shall see in a little while. We are heading that way anyway. So this morning you are with me, Rowan. Behind the camera I've got OD, and we have no real plan. It's mostly that we just want to drive around and see what critters have been walking around at night. So just looking for any track, leopard, lion, wild dog, whatever we can find and whatever we can try follow. But that looks rather cool, the misty bit. So we are making our way to Triple M, which is a boundary, a cut line, and then from there we'll be heading towards Gowrie Main, and then see if anything crossed in to Djuma, anything we can track. But so far quite a lovely morning. Temperature is perfect, it's not hot, so it should make for an interesting game drive. Oh, Anna Marie, you sound like you are ready for the morning safari. I hope you've got a nice strong coffee there, maybe with a bit of amarula in it, and ready for this morning. I got a message from James Richard and a friend of mine that works on Elephant Plains last night, talking about the Shitsalala young male. So it's the first time that she actually saw the Shitsalala young male, and he's made his way all across from Ngala, probably walked through the Manyaleti, and is now seen around Mala Mala. So good to know he's thriving. He's found a new possible spot to hang around on. You can imagine he's a bit shy in that area just because he's not used to the area anymore. It's not his mother's territory. But I hope he lightens up and he won't be too shy. There's a whole bunch of impala running towards us. I'll actually maybe just sit here for a while, watch them. So we passed these last night on our way back, and yeah, again, good spot to sleep. It's out in the open, better for the babies, and it seems like this morning, because it's nice and cool, they've still got quite a bit of energy to chase each other around. See all the babies basically bunched up together, the creche. And the male's starting to prunk around. This also offers us an opportunity just to listen to the bush, see if we can hear any lions roaring, leopards rasping, any alarm calling. Always nice early morning, late afternoon to just sit for a while and listen to the bush. See, that male's looking at the other males that went past us already. They might engage in a bit of wrestling, a bit of horn clashing a little bit later. It's not rutting season yet, but it's a good time to practice. And of course, got some wildebeest on the left. Still a youngster. Not young, but not fully grown just yet. But it looks like the territorial male is all the way to the left. I think he might be behind a bit of a pole for you, Odie. Of course, there we go. We left the rain roof on, just for in case it did say light rain, so we don't want the same scenario yesterday. We have to race back to camp to put on covers or anything. Decided to play it safe, keep the rain roof on, and head out. But so far, no sounds. So no sign of a predator just yet, but we'll keep on checking.
morning and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. It's a nice and overcast morning with us over here, and at the moment there's not much movement of animals. So we decided to come to one of the dams and come and see if we can find any birds. And one of the bird species which we're specifically targeting for this morning is a bird that's known as a dwarf bittern, which we're really hoping to find. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got BK. So for the remainder of the morning, our plan will be to use both vehicle as well as foot segments, and hopefully we'll be able to get out on a short little walk from the vehicle as well. We're going to spend a little bit more time over here first and see what we can find. So some of the sounds that you actually might hear in the background is that of a Birchall's cuckoo, a medium-sized bird which is brown and black in color. And their call almost is reminiscent of that of a bottle of water that gets turned upside down and running out. We tend to find that they will call quite often on overcast mornings and for longer so as well. And this is often the reason why they're incorrectly referred to as a rainbird, because people believe that they will actually predict rain. But it's purely because the air is cool and stable for longer, and therefore they will spend more time and energy in producing a call. It's also the reason why when it starts heating up, that birds will actually stop calling, because the call doesn't carry as far and as effectively. Good morning, Gidizela, and welcome to the show. One of the techniques that you can use when you do come to a water body like this and you want to start scanning for things is actually starting to scan from your right towards your left. And in the process, you actually slow down the taking in of information and details. And it's also quite often a habit that I have learned to use when I'm looking for game species on open plains, as well as when I go to estuary and mud flats. And the reason why you pick up more details is simply because it's against the normal way of what you read. And when you read, you do so pretty fast, and you tend to actually skip certain details. It's just amazing how you can trick the brain and actually making you more effective in spotting animals. While we hang around here, and I hope that we're going to find a little dwarf bittern this morning, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
The hyena Jane was not active. No, probably because it has been raining. Weather honestly affects everything naturally, but I mean it affects the movement of animals. It affects the way that they behave. But we'll keep trying. I'm desperate for a big communal interaction. I really, before I leave, want to see, or at least try and establish the hierarchy. I think I can guess, but you shouldn't really guess. I mean, I guessed it was Corky's cup. I was wrong, so you shouldn't really guess. So I need that sort of interaction. It'd be great if we had lions on the property once again and they made a big kill and the whole Juma clan was there. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But sadly, not. So what am I going to do now? It rained really hard last night when we were sleeping. It's actually quite nice to fall asleep to, rather than to drive to. Billy K, indeed, it's good to see Wendy back. It's been a tough time, and it's good to have her back in action. And she is back in action. I had a wild dog on the dam cam last night. We didn't go live with it, sadly, but my first ever sighting on the dam cam. I was overjoyed. Okay, we're gonna go down to this little pan. Twin Dams is rather boring, but this little pan is not. And let's see if we can see anything happening. Still no weaver action. This is interesting. Oh, James, you're far too sweet. Yes, whatever the bush has to offer, we shall do our best. We have been doing our best. Obviously, we need the rains. Absolutely, we need the water, but it just makes it a little bit tougher for driving. Naturally, to track, to actually find animals. Some of the roads become a little bit unstable. But weavers, where are you? %, they were back. I remember doing a segment. Ah, there's one, Dov. Look, you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Right at the top. Okay, well, we've got a male, we've got a weaver. I wonder if it's a southern masked, I think so. But where are your friends? Where are your nests? I wonder if it's just starting a little bit later. I don't know about last year, as in just a few weeks ago. I don't know if many weavers have been seen around the reserve. But I'm not seeing any where we normally see them. The insect life around this pan is normally phenomenal. I love spending time here when it's in full swing. It doesn't appear to be in full swing right now, and naturally we've not got any sun. Okay, Dav, let's keep bumbling. I feel like this is a good morning to see if we can find anything moving. So as I begin my bumble, we're going to send you over to Rowan.
Something is next to the pole further on. Guys, so we are on the Triple M boundary road and basically driving right into the wind, which seems to be still southeasterly. This usually brings cooler weather to us, which we're not complaining about. Had some incredibly hot days while I've been here at Juma. And then if it changes and we start getting a northerly wind, that brings our hot weather. I can see something in the distance, but I think it's just small impala, maybe two of them, on the Juma side, right next to the road. Sunset Cherry. Cheetah, not often at all. It's just because these areas mostly, they're dominated by hyena, lions and leopards. So as you can imagine, cheetah, they're pretty much at the bottom of the predator hierarchy. So they don't really do too well in areas where there are so many lions, hyena and leopard. As for time of year, has absolutely nothing to do with it. They are around all time of year. They can't migrate, they don't migrate, and so yeah, it's just luck of the draw. So Odie's only ever seen one since he's been at Juma. So it depends on your property. If it has more open spaces, they tend to do better in those areas. Because here it's very, very, very thick. Lots of Combretum woodland, cluster leaf, and then of course smaller the riverbeds like the dip we're in now. Not to say they are unable to hunt in places like these. I mean, they are phenomenal hunters still. It's just because of their speed, running sometimes up to 100 kilometers an hour, they need more open spaces. But I have seen a cheetah kill an inyala in quite heavily wooded thickets. Okay, so they're talking about lions calling, but east of Cruise Camp. So we will keep checking Triple M boundary and then Dari. Lots of male impalas. Sorry boys. It sounds like JP's made his way to a water hole, so we're going to send you that way.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we are looking at a number of mushrooms that are growing from elephant dung. And over the last few days, there's been a lot of moisture in the air, as well as a lot of heat, creating a lot of humidity, which actually creates the optimal conditions for funguses to actually grow. So, if you've ever wondered what separates fungi from plants, it's actually very simple. In the first place, they actually don't have a root system like typical plants. We also see that they don't have chlorophyll, so they can't actually produce their own food, which is another way that they actually differ from plants. But they've overcome this problem by simply using thread-like structures to draw nutrients out of this dung from the elephant dung that they have over here. In this case, we refer to them as saprophytes, where they feed on dead animal or plant material. They also play an incredibly important role in recycling nutrients and minerals in this way. There's a few other strategies that they also have in terms of how they can get food. Some species of fungi are actually parasitic on both plants as well as animals, while other species have actually evolved interesting strategies where they have mutualistic relationships with algae. And in the case of that, the algae is the one that can actually photosynthesize, while the fungi is the one that provides all the nutrients and minerals in that relationship. So quite often I do get asked, how do I differentiate for edible as well as non-edible mushrooms? That's a very tricky thing. And personally, on a survival level, I avoid mushrooms like the plague because it's so difficult to actually sometimes even separate edible from non-edible species. You really have to have good knowledge of the different mushroom species if you're going to venture into the field of actually start eating them. And even every now and then we hear of so-called professionals that know which of their mushrooms, but also gets very ill from eating mushrooms that they thought are actually edible.
We're just admiring this impala, admiring and also watching There is a lot of activity on Gowrie, Main, one of our southern boundaries. So many impala tracks and also so many hyena tracks. Some mongoose tracks as well. It's been busy. But we're just watching to see if this guy gives anything away. I'm very much hoping that he does, so we're just going to sit here for a moment or two. This impala definitely looks a little bit nervous, that's for sure. I'm just deciding where to go. I've stopped at the junction where we can pick up the eastern channel pretty well. And nothing's happening. So I'm going to go back in the north for now. There are really not that many vehicles driving around at the moment. It's very quiet. Definitely in Juma it's quiet, but it's quiet all around. There are lots and lots of hyena tracks around. Sandy, you are 9 years old. And not really, no. I don't know if there are other impalas around that we just can't see because it's so thick. But not really, no. His best move would be to go and join a herd. That's his protection. That's his defense mechanism. He's got very heightened senses. But his defense mechanism is to be in a herd, be protected by your herd life. So no, not really. I'm hoping that he does go and find them. I know where they are. They're just that way. We drove past them. But there may be some impala down there that we didn't actually spot because it is so thick. It's quite unusual to find them on their own, really. I mean, a dominant male maybe, but it's quite unusual to find them completely on their own. This show's very quiet in comparison to Gowrie May. An elephant's walked here, but that's about it. I don't have a radio that scans, so I'm just going to bounce between two channels in case you wonder what I'm doing. Spass, I'm sure you know the answer to that question. It depends what weavers you're talking about. You got the red-headed weavers that do, the buffalo weavers that don't leave, so they don't come back, and they do use the same nest. You get all sorts of different weavers. But if you're referring to the sort of ones that are the migrants that arrive, the yellow ones that build those small sort of circular globe nests, then no, they don't use the same nest. It's all about building. We spend hours and hours and hours watching them build their nest. And it takes about 12 hours on average. They can complete a nest in one day if they're feeling really adventurous and really active. And they can also just tear it down immediately if they're not impressed with themselves. And then, of course, the female can also tear it down if she's not impressed, if she thinks, you can do better than this for me. And of course, once they leave, the nest loses structure. It starts to degrade. It's organic. Through a process of weathering, it just breaks down. And yes, you do see some old nests still hanging, but they're not suitable for a female anymore. So those weavers will not use the same nest. They come here to start afresh, to start new, to eat all the delicious insects. So it's got lots of energy, and it can just weave and build all day long. And that's what they do. It's remarkable. But if a nest is not occupied by a female rather quickly, then the male knows in his little heart that it's not been successful and he must start again. After all that hard work. And if we are able to get our hands on a nest, sometimes they fall and they're lying on the ground, old ones, we'll try and pick it up, and it's unbelievable how tightly woven they actually are. Yes, weavers weave, but it's really difficult to tear apart the nest. It's so intricate, and they do this in about 12 hours on average. It's remarkable. With their tiny little beak. Really remarkable. I do just want to check this road very carefully. This is now Drakensberg, and it takes you all the way north. It kind of weaves, but it takes you all the way north. Oh, are you able to get them, Darby? Yeah. Swallows, I think. It's really tricky to know if your cameraman can get the birds when you've got a rain roof on. Oh, how lovely! Little swallow's just not quite ready to fly yet because, well, it's ridiculously chilly. I would be the same if I was a bird. I feel you, swallows. Oh, look at them all. I wonder what swallow it is. I don't know if it is just the barn swallow. We do get lots of different swallows here. I saw the lesser striped recently too, but that's quite obvious from the stripy chest. Swallows are wonderful little birds, very gregarious, and if you sort of look at this entire tree, there must be about a lot. 25? Maybe more? Look at them, they just look miserable and cold. Birds are endothermic, so they're not waiting on the sun to get warm. They are probably just waiting for the sun, to just be warm. Take to the sky. Oh, there we go, just like that. Only one remains. And off they go. That tree went from being very full to very empty very quickly. Kev, African Harrier Hawk being bombed by 2 drongos. I don't know if Darby can get that because of the riff. I think it's a Harrier Hawk. Yes, it is. Oh, nice one, Darby. The poor drongos just will not let these big birds ever be in peace, ever. We see this on a daily basis, and it's called mobbing. It's a technique that birds use often, the small birds, to make themselves seem bigger than they actually are. Hey, we may be small, but we're still going to come and attack you. Kev, I don't know why swallows are called swallows, actually. I really have no idea where that name comes from, I'm afraid. Okay, Drakensberg has delivered so far. What else is it going to bring us? As we bumble on and search for our next sighting, we're going to send you guys over to JP.
Welcome back to Eco Training Prylands. At the moment we're looking at the fruit of the whiteberry bush, and these little fruits are edible. If you ever wondered how to make sure that you can eat something when it does come to fruit, you can often smell it, and if there's odors or aromas that's reminiscent of both jasmine or almond, it's always best to leave them alone. And then also, if there's a next way that you can check if it's edible, and that's simply by taking a small part of that fruit and putting it on the soft skin inside your wrist. If you do develop an allergic reaction, it's always best to avoid that. There's a few other things you can also do. If you can put a small little tip of that fruit onto the tip of your tongue, if it's bitter or if it burns, it's also best to actually not eat it. And then from there, if it doesn't show any of those characteristics, you can continue eating a small little amount of that. And then once you've made sure that it doesn't make you ill, then you can have a little bit more of it. One of the things that I do find is that our bodies aren't always used to a number of things that we're not used to eating. And in a survival situation, fruits out in the wild can very quickly upset your stomach by giving you diarrhea, which actually will put you further into a moisture loss deficit. There's a few other things that we also noticed right here at the bottom. There's these beautiful little yellow flowers, and they belong to one of the raisin bushes. And we also specifically came to look if there's any fruits on this raisin bush. However, no fruits as yet. So one of the things that I do like about these little fruits is that you can actually eat them as well, and that you can make a drink out of them. So quite often in a number of different African cultures, these fruits are soaked and they're either drunk as a refreshing drink or given to women that has just gone through labor just to re-energize their bodies. Some of the fruits has also in the past actually been distilled and made into a brandy, hence the reason some of these raisin bushes are also referred to as a brandy bush. The fruits are also often eaten by a number of different bird species, as well as baboons, African civet, and also warthogs and monkeys. So when it does come to African civet, we often find the remains of these little seeds in their civetrines. And we've also find that it's become important for these seeds to pass through the gut of these different animal species, because a hard seed on its own won't be able to germinate without the help of passing through the stomach of these animals. Good morning, Zaid. And Zaid is asking us a question of how big the fruits can get on the whiteberry bush. They're quite tiny, and if we do look for them, I'm just going to put my finger there as a comparison. That's probably less than 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters in diameter. well, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find.
So we've turned into Juma, we took Zoe's Road, and now we're actually on Black Monkey Orange, looping back towards Zoe's Road. Spoke to another ranger and he said the Nkuhumas have crossed into Juma, so now it's actually just trying to find their tracks so that we know where to check. If they're here, it shouldn't really take too long, hopefully. We just need to find a track so we know which direction they're walking in, and then we'll know which roads to check in which direction. Luckily, the ground is still a little bit wet from the rain yesterday. So if we do find a track, it shouldn't be too hard to determine. There are so many flies around this morning with a bit of moisture on the grass. So what we'll actually probably do is going back to Triple M and just having a proper look where they crossed in, if we can find that. Quite funny if I keep looking down at tracks and boom, they're just in the road in front of me. That's basically what happened with the wild dogs yesterday afternoon. Okay, so far no lion tracks on either Zoe's or Black Monkey Orange. So now let's head back to Triple M. So Prada lines, you should at least be able to see one, especially across a boundary road. So once we know where they crossed in, I'll actually just start tracking them that way. So far quite a few hyena tracks and elephant tracks, but no lion tracks just yet. Odie says it would just be wrong if I don't get to see the Nkuhumas before leaving. So I've put quite a large effort into finding them this morning. Oh, just got a lot of grass seeds in my mouth. Also, while driving, if they are lying down in the grass with this amount of flies, I'm pretty sure you'll just see that black tip of the tail sort of being wagged up and down to try to get rid of the flies, because some of these are biting flies. Hopefully they've got a male or some of the males with them. But while we keep checking 4 tracks, see if we can find them, we'll send you back over to Lauren, who's on a bumble.
Ooh, we are almost at Gory Pan. Now this is the pan that I showed you the other day on Gory Pan Road that has Kalamba and cup tracks, 100%. And in is a Dane site that she has used and Tandy has used. We know it quite well, and that's where I saw her drop the cups off the other day, and it wasn't actually the other day now, it was a while ago. So it's just always a road worth checking, basically. I'm not going to go in, not with the rain roof. I don't want to get in any hairy situations, but there's quite an easy 2-track in. It's a very prominent den, it's been used for years. I don't know if she's still using it, but it's worth checking. Until we get on the scent of some hot, fresh tracks, we're just going to keep checking the area that we know she has been using. Wouldn't it be nice if she was just in the middle of the road like the last time? That would be lovely. So you can see this is Gory Pan, and it's really full. It's deliciously full. There's not much going on, but I would say, Davi, if we can just sort of go here, where my finger is, there we go. Maybe just a bit more to the right of that. That's the sort of way to the that's it. There's a little gap in between the trees, and that's how you get to the den. You go there. That's not how the vehicle does it, but that's obviously the sort of pathway that Kalamba's been using. Now, whether she's still using this area, I don't know. They've just got to put together the very few pieces of information that we do have and work the area. It's a very nice den as well. Isn't that where you found Marib stuff with James? Mm-hmm. And you spotted him, didn't you? Oh, yeah. Yes, you'll all remember James Henry was having a rather unlucky stint. Was it lockdown? I don't remember. Neither can I. But Annie finally was working hard and hard and hard on finding Tandy and Marib's, and of course he did, and it was so wonderful. And it was this den here. So it's much further back. You've got some Bundabash, but I'm just not going to do that with the roof on, I'm afraid. I was going to do it yesterday, but never mind. Lions. Well, that's interesting. Because I was here yesterday and the lion tracks were not there. Let's get on to Cheetah Cut Line. Spas! You're asking, do hyenas use the same den as lions and leopards? No, Spas, they don't. Lions and leopards do, they cross over, and we saw Purple Eye have a den in the Mulwati. It's a beautiful, beautiful den. And then we saw Tandy use it a little while later with Marib's when he got a bit older and he moved from the Gory Pan one. But hyenas not so much. As I'm sure you know, they use termite mounds and they keep their young stashed inside the termite mound. And then it becomes a communal den where all the young are in the termite mound. Lions and leopards, at least in this area, and it may change geographically. That's absolutely possible. That as you move to a different area or a different part of Africa, the sort of den sites that they use will change. I mean, if you look at the Masai Mara, the North Clan don't really use termite mounds, they use burrows in the ground. And lions and leopards tend to use drainage systems, at least here, in the low veld. drainage systems where they can go in, and it's very tricky to get in, which is why it's difficult for us to see. And the cubs can stash themselves in nooks and crannies and root systems. So no, they actually don't. The radios are not working too well this morning. I wonder if it's something to do with the weather. But I mean, in areas like the Masai Mara, it's very possible that they do use similar, because it's a very flat, the topography of the Masai Mara and this sort of vegetation type is completely different. This is so dense, so thick, lots of huge termite mounds. It's really not like that in the Masai Mara. And in the Masai Mara, maybe they do overlap with the sort of type of den site that they do actually use. And that's very possible. There's not too much option in the Masai Mara like there is here. Here we have lots of drainage systems. It's a very riverine system. Lots of termite mounds and burrows. I'm just trying to keep my eye out to see if I can see anything. This is Cheetah Cut Line. So this is our eastern boundary. Juma's on this side that you're looking at, Torchwood's on the other. We don't go there anymore, but it's still a good line to check to see if anything crossed over. Line tracks were fresh because vehicle tracks were on top of them and they have disappeared, so I think they've all been driven over. Okay, I'm just going to scratch around this area for a bit, see if I can pick up on anything else, and we're going to send you guys over to JP.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. One of the questions that I do often get asked, how do animals actually communicate? And there's actually a number of different ways that they can do so. They can do it through vocalizations, and they can also do it through physical expressions or facial expressions, or using their body to relay certain messages. But for one of the most important ways that they can communicate is actually by using a number of different scents. If you want to use scent, you can actually use your feces or urine, or you can use specialized glands to produce a specific message. And in this case, we can see right over here how a hippopotamus has actually been spraying the grass to relay a specific message. And in this case, it's away from the water, which most likely would indicate that it would be for navigational purposes. Where if it's often against a waterline, it would actually indicate a territory. There's an interesting African story that relates around this, and it also actually goes that the hippo once upon a time actually used to eat fish. So as it ate all the fish in the water bodies, the crocodile was left with no food. Eventually the crocodile went to go and complain to their maker, and the maker punished the hippopotamus and told it to only start eating on grass. And to prove that it doesn't eat any fish, it had to spray its dung so that they could see that there's no fish bones inside the dung. Coming back to this, we also see that there's a number of other strategies that will be used by hippo for the purpose of spraying dung, and one of those is dominant signal, where they will often defecate on other individuals within the water. And for males, this is fairly easy because they've got a fat stubby tail that they use to spray the dung. So it's also one of the ways that we can separate females from males, as that the females don't spray, and their dung balls, as well as the young males, are normally round when they deposit it, unlike those of the territorial males, which scatters it. Some of the other interesting things that I do find is specialized glands in a number of different species, which they will use for actually marking as well as relaying specific messages. And in elephants, we often will see that there's a gland on the top of the head, which is known as a temporal gland. And those glands can often be indicative of bulls and must, but also it will indicate the mood of an animal, as it often relates also to stress. And as a bull and must moves through a specific area, that gland also rubs off on branches, leaving a chemical scent trail, which will tell other bulls in the area that there is a more dominant bull than themselves, which might be a must, and that's best for them to stay out of that area. It also will relate to females, that there's a dominant male in the area, which is in a reproductive condition. When it does come to species like wildebeest, as well as klipspringers, they've also got specialized glands, and these are known as preorbital glands, or glands that are found directly underneath the eyes. And those are often smeared on objects such as branches, and that will then relay specific chemical messages. And those chemical messages that might be relayed is about the age, the reproductive condition of a specific individual, and they say that even mood can be determined by that, and the well-being of the animal. When it comes to vocalizations being used as a territorial call, one of those favorites for me is always the sound of leopard. And we often will hear leopards calling, and that is to proclaim territory and to tell other leopards to stay out of the area, but also to alert females of a potential male caller. And when it does come to the territories of leopards, we generally find that there will be at least one male in that specific area with at least 2 to 3 overlapping females. We also find it's not the only cat species that vocalize to proclaim its territory. Lions do so as well. And we often hear them in the early part of the morning or the later parts of the evening when the air is cooler, and those sounds can actually travel much further. When it comes to the distance of sounds, we can often hear the sounds of lion up to a distance of 8 kilometers, and that's for the human ear. And for a lion, they can probably hear one another over a far greater distance. Well, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
Hi everyone, we're just trying to avoid going over Shongololo. I think I may have to jump out and move him. Dear. It's either that or he gets squished by Wendy. So excuse me while I jump up. A little guy. Actually, not so little. Look at him, he's huge. My goodness. It tickles. Now, I'm not a big fan of picking creatures up, but if they're on the road, I can't get around. This is the narrowest road. And he just froze in the middle of the road, inches away from my tire. So I'm obviously not going to hurt him. And aren't you just cute? But you're also massive and very tickly. So I'm just going to put him here where he's supposed to be. There we go. I'll do the same for tortoises. You're not supposed to pick them up, but if they're on the road,
my radio was down for a couple of minutes. Any changes?
It's such a narrow road, and there's a huge stump there. Okay, so we are just going to keep bumbling now. Summer's difficult. There are always animals on the road. And for tortoises, they can get a fright. They can release water from their bursts, but you can't just move them. And as long, because water's plentiful. In winter, if they were around, that's a different story, or in times of a drought, because they are at risk of dehydration, but not in summer. Even the vegetation's wet, everything's wet. But that was a very cute millipede. I'm not picking up on signs of anybody yet, which is rather unfortunate. We're still working the Tlalamba area, but no luck so far. It's going to be tricky. You really need a team. But we're trying it anyway. No one's working this part of the reserve today, so we may as well just keep scratching around the roads. One gotta try. And then once we sort of do this circle, we'll pop back in at the hyena den. The animals like to make it difficult for you. They like to make it challenging, and it is. But when that challenge pays off, my goodness, that feeling, it's all too worth it. But if she's moving with the cubs at any point, the grass is so long and so wet, it's very likely that she will move on the road. We found her on the road the other day. Haley, no, it's not rare. It's not rare at all. Obviously, in this particular area, there's a very high predator density and a high mortality rate, I'm afraid. So no, it's not rare at all. Many leopards will raise more than one cub to success. 2's the sort of average number. Can go to 3. But for leopards, 2's your average. So no, it's not rare at all, and I naturally hope with every inch of my being that Tlalamba is successful. Look at Sabui. She had Shasha and Langa, and she's raised them so well. They're both thriving. We've had Langa a few times recently. I'm just checking this area very carefully. It's sort of a really nice junction where all sorts of drainage lines meet, just on Central Road. It's very close to where all the den sites are. Vartandi, Karula, the Nkuhumas. So it's just worth checking. Now I'm at a crossroads, literally. I don't know where to go. What do you think, Davi? Inyala, vultures. Inyala, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Follow your gut. That's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you. Even yesterday I was driving to Battalier and something told me, no, stop, go Mamba. And I thought, okay, go Mamba, go Mamba. Went on Mamba and there was heart. Is it a coincidence? Probably, but still, follow your gut. So this is, I'm gonna go this way. Okay, there seems to be tracks everywhere this morning, which is a good sign. So we're going to send you over to Rowan, who's looking at some.
Okay, so we found tracks of the lions. They did cross into Juma. Just left the trucks over there. So I was actually off the vehicle for quite a bit of time, just checking if they went further east. But it seemed like they came north, maybe across the drainage line. And now we have, there are tracks of a female leopard going back that way. But we're going to leave those for now and see if we can pick up on the lion tracks again, see where they went. It's a bit of a tough section with the hard sand, and because it looks like there are cubs in this pride. So now when you see a female leopard tracks, you're like, oh, is this a lion cub or is it a leopard? I'm pretty sure we'd be able to figure out where they went. So Odie's on scanning duty and I'm just looking down for tracks. Bonnie, a lion weighs, well, a female weighs anything from 150 to 180 kilograms, whereas a female leopard weighs about 60 kilograms, and then a male lion could go up to 250 kilograms, whereas a male leopard could go 80 to 90 kilograms. So, as you can imagine, size is a huge difference here. Which is where the only trick comes in really, when you see lion cub tracks and a fully grown female leopard track. I saw a toe back there, but again, when you start tracking an animal, you almost see what you want to see, what you are hoping to see. If we can't find anything on this road, then eventually what we'll do is just go back to the last track, and I'll actually walk into that little riverbed to the drainage line, just make sure we know where they've crossed, and then keep going again from there. Unless they decided to settle in the riverbed, which I don't see really why they would, because the grass is so wet. I'd expect them to just be walking on the roads. They haven't been here. Unless I saw something they wanted to chase. So the female leopard, she walked all the way from here, and there's actually quite a nice track just on my right. I think she was just sniffing around. There's not really too much to scent mark here, and then continued in that direction. But we're not really looking for this female leopard. We are just trying to track down the Nkawumas. Sad thing is, when you're driving, you only really check one side of the track, hoping that they spread out. Some walked on the right and some walked on the left. I don't really think they've walked on this road.
I'm sitting out there lying in the road line. Eyes on focus, and he's making his way. And as soon as he gets here, I'm going to push it.
Okay, so they found a Torchwood Pride. Says they're just lying on a road, sleeping. And we are looking for the Nkawumas.
No problem, Nigel. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Okay. Apparently some of the viewers want a little game. I'll find a track, and then I'll show you the track, and then you have to guess what it is. Let me just find a nice patch where we would be able to see tracks. Strangely, it smells like wild dogs here. Hey, Odie?
We finished our loop. Not successful, clearly. So I think because we're in the area, we're at Spaghetti Junction. We were talking about this the other day, which I guess... Hold on. Hyena. I guess I can maybe try and show you why it is called Spaghetti Junction. So if you sort of look, this takes you to Twin Dams Road. Here takes you into the Mowati, but then you can go another road down. Then you can go straight to Batalia, and then there are other roads that take you up Twin Dams Road. And I guess essentially what I'm trying to say is it's a very messy junction. There are lots of roads coming out of everywhere that just take you in different directions, and that's why it's called Spaghetti Junction. Someone was asking me that the other day. It's just messy. It's a great junction. It takes you everywhere you want to go, but that's where spaghetti comes from. I love it though. It's quite central-ish, and it really can take you in every direction other than west. You can go north, south, or east to different parts of the reserve. I feel like there are impala everywhere today. Every single road we've been on, there are impala. But I'm just going to put the foot down, do one more den check, and then work that area where we saw hundreds and hundreds of hyena tracks. And I'm obviously really hoping that the Dane will be active. Hart was on her way there yesterday when we got hit by that downpour, and she was extremely full. We also found Hart on Mamba full, which is interesting because that's where all the activity is. Okay, sorry, I'm talking out loud. I think something's going on in the southeastern corner of the reserve. So we are going to look back there. But I feel like Hart and Ribbon are not staying at the den at the same time, which is fascinating. I haven't seen Corky at all. Okay, let's get to the den. I wonder if the hyenas see me come in and they think, oh my goodness, she's back again. But I haven't seen Corky, not at all, and considering she's the matriarch now, where is she? It just leaves me feeling that she could be Dana. But I am just speculating here. The one thing I always say we shouldn't do. I'm doing it. Okay, the den is literally just here. Wendy's door has also decided to break on us, and it is refusing to shut. It's obviously not my door because I don't have one, so we keep having to stop to close Wendy's door, which is just joyous. Anyway, moving on. Who thinks the hyenas are going to be there? Davi? Davi said I should always just assume they're not going to be there so that I don't get upset when I get there and they're not there. And I quite like that policy. Don't get your hopes up. Because I do get upset. But I have a funny feeling they're all on some sort of, they're up to something. That was a lot of tracks. A lot of tracks. The Talamatis have been found on Bufosuk. Rowan mentioned that. Let's just do a quick door slam before we get to the den. No! Okay, another loop. Another time. Bye, Dane. That's because these hyenas are busy elsewhere. I'm going to try switching to the Eastern Channel and see if we can get any updates. But I mean, it rained heavily until the wee early hours of the morning. So I think most animals will just be either sleeping that up, shaking that off, trying to warm up, trying to dry off. Okay, well, I'm slightly disappointed, but that's okay. I'm going to head back to the southeast and keep working that corner. And I think Rowan is still working his tracks.
Don't worry, Lauren. It seems that both of us are struggling just a little bit this morning. I can't find other tracks for this pride. So I'm currently looping back to the last track I had, where I'll just hop off the vehicle a little while, try to follow the last track, see where they crossed over that tiny riverbed. And then yeah, go from there. Two females look a bit uncertain about where to go. Reed, no, so they actually wait quite a significantly longer time. Oh, these impalas just seem so unsure.
They're looking the right direction.
Yeah. Especially the one in front of us, the oxpecker. Keeps staring down that road. That's where we came from. So Reed, no, it takes about 6 months, 7 months before the cubs actually start moving around with the mom. And they can climb trees within, I'd say 6 weeks. So no, it takes quite a bit longer. I wonder if they can probably, actually I don't wonder, they can probably smell this Pride Alliance, which is why they're standing in the clearing like that and just looking around, because both of those impalas were facing different directions at a stage. Okay, so we're going to send you across to JP while we still try to figure out where these trucks come out.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're watching a mixed group of animals busy grazing as well as browsing, and they include both impala, kudu as well as zebra. And it's not often that we get the opportunity to actually view kudu from the vehicle, as they tend to be quite skittish and move away from the vehicles very quickly. At the moment, it does appear as if this kudu is actually feeding grass, but it's actually not. It's actually going for a small amount of shrubs, as if they're actually browsers, which means that they feed on leaf material, unlike the zebra and the impala, which feeds mostly at grass. In the case of impala. They can also fix over to leaf material in the later parts over here when there's no sufficient grasses around, or when the grasses aren't as palatable as what they are at the moment. Occasionally I have actually seen zebra also taking leaf material, but it's maybe once or twice in a 22-year career as a guide that I've actually seen this behavior. It was only in times of drought when there was absolutely nothing else to eat that I have seen them doing so. Come back to the kudu, the one that we have in front of us. This is a female, and as you notice, you'll see that they actually have no horns compared to the males. And this is typical of woodland antelope species, where the females lack horns because horns actually do get in the way. Also in the case of kudu, baboons that are unhappy about something. I'm not sure what that's up to. You can just see how all of the animals then changed in their behavior when they suddenly noticed the baboons alarming in the distance. That's most likely more a dispute between two big males that were running down the road rather than that of a predator that might be disturbing them. Coming back to the kudu, we'll also notice typically of woodland antelope species is that they've got incredibly big ears. And when you do operate in thick wooded areas, you must be able to actually detect your potential threat by means of hearing, as sight is quite limited in these environments. So in South Africa, we only have one species of kudu, and this is known as the greater kudu. That's also our second heaviest of antelope species when it comes to the bulls. And they can gain weights of approximately 316 kilograms. Also the antelope species with the longest horns, even if it does appear that species such as Gemsbok have longer horns, although they're straight. It doesn't take in consideration the length of the cool of the horns have in kudu. Now, if I remember, the record of kudus is just over almost close to 1.8 meters now in length for a kudu horn. In general, we also find some areas where kudu becomes persecuted, that they become very secretive, and they only become active at night. Good morning, Daniel. I don't often see kudu in association with zebra and impala. It's more often we'll find actually that zebra, impala and wildebeest will feed in association. And most likely it's an open area. There is a number of shrubs that they can feed on, which they are feeding on, and at the same time they're just enjoying the safety in numbers which these other animals are providing by having more eyes, less chance that it's going to be you that's going to be more individuals in the group, less chance for you going to be taken, and more eyes to spot a potential predator. There's got a few more kudus that are now coming out of the bush, moving towards us as well. It's all females. Within the next few months, normally from late April, May, we'll start actually noticing that the kudu bulls start developing incredibly thick necks, and they'll very soon start fighting one another for access to females. And quite often they become very complacent when they are in the rutting period from May right through to April, May to August. And it's sometimes if they're so focused on females that they don't really notice what's going on around them, and they often end up running into trouble. In one of the areas where I worked, there was a group of lions which we referred to as the mountain pride, and they often used to take kudu bulls down at that specific part of the year, as they were way more alert than the females were. One of the things that always fascinates me about kudu is how they can so effectively use the ability to freeze and just blend into the environment and disappear within seconds. Well, we're watching our group of different antelope species, and let's go and see what Rowan is up to.
Cool, JP, you enjoy that. I need to look for these last tracks and see exactly where they crossed into this little drainage system and start following that. So every line I make is just the last track I see. So if I can't find the next one anywhere, go back to the last track. Actually, these look beautiful. So you can see those right behind me. And then the adult goes in here, cubs go in here, and then into this little drainage line. Okay, so this is where we're gonna have to go down for a little walk. I really hope they didn't turn around on themselves. There's more going in there. So quite a few hyena tracks, and then of course we're going to come across a leopard track like this one, beautifully indented in the mud like that. But I think my best option for now is to actually take a quick walk in here. Go look if there's a sandy patch down there, see if they crossed, and just hope for the best. They're not making it easy. But if it was easy, it just wouldn't be as much fun. But yeah, so further down this road there are no tracks heading east, and then they were coming straight down from that road in our direction. I can imagine they would have just gone north, hopefully. Lisa, this is where it becomes hard, because now they're not on the road anymore. The sand is starting to bake and harden up. So the more time we spend just, contemplating about it, the more time you actually lose. So now, because they're off the road and they start walking in long grass, it becomes really, really tough. That's why I want to go check the sandy patch in the riverbed and see if we can find where they crossed and exactly where to go. We still can't hear anything either, so I'll just sit on the vehicle and listen for a little while longer.
Thank you so much. I told her to be out of here.
Beautiful early morning bird calls. Sun's starting to peer out a little bit. It's going to get rather hotter in the next little while. Funny, all the hyena trucks we're seeing are moving away from the lion trucks, not following them at all. Yeah, some gorgeous trucks, especially in the wetter parts of the mud, or wetter sand.
I copy that, thank you. I will do so.
For some reason I just want to pop into Gwenstein. There's a lot of hyena action around here, and it's one of the den sites I've not checked in a while. Gwen was Hart's mama, so this new little cub's grandmother, and we named den after her. When I first came here, this den was very much in use. This is where you used to see Ribbon and Paddy. Ribbon and Paddy. I'm just checking. Literally, you've just got to sort of keep checking areas, and one day you'll get lucky. All over, everyone's tracking today. No one's getting lucky apart from the Talamatis way up in Bovasuk. Oh. We're sliding everywhere on this road. But even if it's not active or nothing serious, just nice. You'll all get to see Gwenstein. I have lots of memories here. The first time I saw the Inkahumas new cubs this time round was right here as well. My goodness, this is overgrown. Okay, there are two dentrances. I can't even see this one, but I am going to move round to the other side as well. Wow, okay. I don't think anyone's using this damn side. Sydney, I don't think any animals recognize human voices, I'm afraid. Whew, it's also overgrown. Wow, okay. I don't think anybody using this den. Darby's also shaking his head. Nope, that's a big no. I mean, maybe they recognize human vocalizations, but would you recognize individual hyena whoops? Not really. I don't think that they recognize individual humans, but maybe they recognize that one sound that we all make. I could be wrong, they're highly intelligent, but I think out here in the wild, they definitely don't. Maybe if you domesticated one, they would recognize your voice. Wow, this is so overgrown and waterlogged, I can't believe it. What do you think about taking the fire break? I'd love to, but I think after the rain we shall not. We shall slip and slide our way out of here. Why is there so much? My radio is also not working well. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's after the rains or... Something's going on. Eee. Okay, nothing's coming from the Eastern Channel. I'm just trying to think what I want to do now. Okay, let's head back up this way. Hyenas walk for miles and miles at night time. It is actually unbelievable how far they walk. Really, they cover remarkable amounts of ground. So there could have been activity here last night, but it could have all died down. But still, I'm going to continue searching, and we're going to send you guys over to JP.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still with our big group of animals that we found a little bit earlier. The group has also been joined by giraffe, but at the moment we're actually watching two zebras having a bit of a fight there at the back. It hasn't become very serious yet, but quite often we will see that they will try and kick one another as well as try and bite one another. We're just going to sit and watch them and see what they get up to. Good morning, Jen. Welcome to the show. Generally, when it does come to fighting, it's mostly the males that do the fighting, and species where there's either territorial areas that they would like to proclaim or where it's for females. In this case, it looks like two stallions. It's just a little bit hard to see with the thick vegetation that's fighting, probably for females. And the reason why they do fight is because they either want to displace a male that currently has a harem of females and then take over that harem. So when it does come to the social structures of zebra, they've also got a number of different social structures that we can find. In general, we have also both harem herds, where we find a single male with several females, and then also herds of bachelors. And if you're not sure how to separate them and you can't see underneath the stomach line of where the penis is or the reproductive parts are, it's sometimes best just to check and look at their bums. And you'll notice that the females have got a broad black line between the buttocks compared to the male, which has got a thin, narrow line between the buttocks. Well, two zebras are still busy fighting and see what they're getting up to. It did seem if one of them gave the other one quite a serious kick earlier on in the face. One of the things that you'll also notice with zebras is the ears and the positioning of the ears. Upright ears generally is aggressive, and then if your ears is flat, it generally is a submissive behavior, which we noticed from the one that is slightly smaller than the other, displayed with submissive behavior a few seconds ago. Just to give you an idea how serious those kicks are, they can inflict a lot of damage. And in the case of predators that often pursue them, there's even records of zebras actually killing lions. It is pretty fascinating to watch them, and let's see what happens. Hopefully it's going to escalate a little bit more and become a little bit more serious. In general, when it does come to fighting, if it's animals that are prey species, we find that their fighting is actually more ritualized and less often brutal in the way that one of the individuals will be killed. However, if you're fairly large or a predator, the general rule is that one of the animals that are more dominant eventually will be most likely going to kill one of the others in the process of gaining dominance for that territory or getting access to the females. It seems if everybody is behaving themselves now and the fighting has come to an end. Well, we're going to stick around here a little bit longer and see what our group of animals are going to get up to, but let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
We're not having much luck this morning, but that's okay. You need to sometimes reacquaint yourself with what is going on, what tracks are moving where, who is where. I feel like I haven't been out on a proper drive in a while. I'm going to check Buffelshoek Dam because we love Buffelshoek Dam. I'm only teasing, there is actually nothing wrong with it. We just get attached to different areas, and Buffelshoek Dam is just not one of the areas that I am attached to. It used to be, but not anymore. So I think Rowan's working this side, so we'll work this side.
Now, friends, I'll leave the gala for you to open the visual source just north of Kayaman's list of photos. Right on the open look.
Yeah, they've got lions up in Buffelshoek. It's strange, the last time I was here, we saw the Talamatis almost every day. We had they were just around, and now, well, I've been here for quite a few days now. I'm not aware of any lions entering into the property until today. Okay, we are going to slow it down shortly, but for now I just want to make it to Buffelshoek Dam. We are still just bumbling. It's not been a very fruitful morning, but that's just sometimes how it goes in the bush. So we're going to keep bumbling just because there's a dam that I want to make it to. There's always a toss-up between stopping and just staying still and admiring that everything that's going on around you, which is also an incredible thing to do, and then to keep driving because you want to get places, you want to check places. And it's always a tough call. The sun popped its head out for a little while. Got grey clouds approaching, but it did say hello. Isn't it nice just to watch the landscape as we drive on by? going to keep bumbling and get to that dam.
Okay, so we've gone off road now. I came for a quick walk and I could hear them growling. So then that was enough for me, and I just headed back to the vehicle. So I'm in the area where I thought I heard the growling from, but even on foot, my heart was racing. So I'm trying to keep quiet now, see if we can hear them growling. If they're on a carcass, most likely they're going to make quite a bit more sound. But it is so thick to walk in here. It's actually a little bit, it really was terrifying. So I think let's start off by checking the right. And then if nothing, we'll just continue a little bit further along left. Sound carries, especially in conditions like these. I hope they're not in the actual drainage line. That might be a little bit tough for us to put on camera. The nice thing is about the wet grass, I was just following tracks of one line and it almost makes a line in the grass. So Odie, we're going to try squeeze through here quick. So once the trucks go off the road and start moving through the grass, it just makes this line. You can actually see the grass being pushed over in one direction and just the animal that walked through there. That's maybe not a good idea for Rusty. So Lolo, that is exactly what just happened. So yes, I have encountered a lion while tracking on foot. Don't want to get Rusty stuck. I know, but we should actually be able to get over it. And just try from a different direction. And a little tree, give a bit of momentum. And there we go. Yeah, Tololo, 9 years in the bush, you're bound to encounter lions on foot, especially when you have to track them down. So don't always make it easy and just stay on the road. Okay, Odie, this is the path I was following. Going there. Let's try and listen out if we can hear them. So if they did see me and started growling, there's a small chance that they actually got up and moved away in another direction. At least we know they are here somewhere. Let's carry on looking. It can be quite a lengthy process. So the last thing you want to do, I mean, if you hear a growl, that's enough. You don't need to push your limits and see how close you can get before they actually react to you. Listen to them, take the warning, and then get out of there. Especially because they have cubs with them. Be a little bit more defensive than you would like. so many stumps here. This was my fear yesterday afternoon, following wild dogs, and now I'm driving slowly trying to locate the lines and keep hitting every stump. Although this area is very different because we're next to this riverbed. It's a lot thicker. Luckily yesterday afternoon with the dogs, they ran through a clearing. So let's carry on looking. I think maybe actually go back to the road, go back to that clearing, and then head further east. It could just be that I completely misjudged the distance of the sound. Of course, there are pan systems here everywhere, so that's something we need to look out for as well, as we don't want to get stuck. So even walking back to the vehicle, you give yourself a landmark. You say, okay, there's a torn up on here, and from there it sounded like they were straight east. So that was my landmark, almost like determining where to go. Let's do this again. I wonder, let's go a little bit further in. Okay, so we're going to still spend quite a bit of time in this area until we find them. I might just go for a short little walk again, or just sit and listen. They should chirp up, but while we do so, we're going to send you to Lauren, who's at a watering hole.
We've made it to Buffelshoek Dam, and sadly, not much is going on. We do have a water buck, but other than that, it's remarkably quiet. So obviously I've been doing a lot of driving to check a lot of areas, so I'm thinking for a moment, let's just sit and appreciate being at the dam. Fred, you're saying you're loving the calm atmosphere and you hope I have my coffee. I did have my coffee, but it's already finished. I'm a massive coffee fan. I think I've done one drive without it and it wasn't a good drive. So I have got my coffee, don't you worry. But it is calm. You do need to stop and just stop for a moment. I think I just feel out of touch, if that makes sense. I just need to start covering different areas, finding out where everything's moving, and we'll get there. Summer brings its challenges. It's beautiful, it's stunning, it's lush, it's alive, it's buzzing, it's pulsating. Summer is incredible, especially when the sun is shining. But it does bring its challenges in finding animals. It is so, so thick. Kichiguma?
I didn't get it.
I didn't get it either, just made a guess. Nature is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I think
Kitty-zina.
Kitty-zina.
Kitty.
Kitty-zina. Yes, nature is amazing. And I think the one thing I do love about it is that absolutely nothing is constant. It's always in a state of sort of flux. It's always changing. There's always momentum. And I think I like that.
Misting up a bit with the sun.
Oh. Things come, things go. I think it's a good reminder for life sometimes. But that's what I love about nature. And Buffelshoek Dam really is a wonderful dam. I am only teasing, I don't dislike it. I've had some incredible sightings here, my goodness. I remember when this dam was empty, having the Avoca males come walk right across the dam to find a tiny little patch that wasn't empty, and looking at them in the thermal camera. Okay, that's the geese started. And just following, I think it was Blondie and Mohawk, all the way across the dry dam, was all cracked, and following them in the thermal camera, that really was special. Okay, I think we're just going to sit here for a moment or two longer. Egyptian geese. They never stop. But we are just going to sit here for a moment in silence and just appreciate all being here together at Buffelshoek Dam. is a little bit windy, but what a treat to just sit here, stay still for a moment and appreciate everything around you.
Back from a little walk, there are tracks of two youngsters in here coming up and down, but I think I misjudged the distance of the sound that I heard. But since we've been here, we've not heard a single thing again. Yeah. Well, we've got an hour to find this line. This little riverbed makes it quite tricky as well, because if they're in it, we'll miss it. If they manage to chase anything down into it and catch it there, we might just miss it. I almost think our best bet would be to go to exactly where I last heard the sound and then just drive straight east from there in the direction where I heard it. So we are going to try to do that. Hi. It's getting quite steamy though, walking around. So in here there's, it might actually be the same cub, but one's coming up and then one's going back down again. So there's a small pan system here, which I might drink from, but let's quickly check if I can show you guys this track. I'll hop off quick. I am littered in grass, seeds and ticks. So I don't know if you can focus here, but here's one track going that way, and then right next to it is another track going this way. The thing is with young lions, they play as well while the adult's on the move. So you'd rather follow an adult track than the cubs. Scrubby. It makes it interesting as well, because you're walking so slowly and you're so stressed about literally bumping into them, and then you get little franklins and scrubbies that also jump up right next to you. So much fun. So we've been here. Now let's just follow this little drainage system east. Luckily it's not too overgrown here, but I think it gets worse as we carry on. So even from the vehicle, from this height, if they walk through here, you should actually see it. Yeah, it's not so nice. They bite into you and you get very, very, very itchy. So it's not ideal, the ticks. Luckily in summer, you won't really have them. This is a rather nice game path. Wonder if it's taking us too far down. Can't see a single track here. But let's just start off by checking the actual riverbed in case they did come down this way. But yeah, entirely possible that they saw me, was growling at me, and then moved off. Alrighty, we might tilt to the side a little bit. Just want to check the sand here. Nothing in there, so let's head back up and just follow still on the northern side of the drainage line. Luckily, driving Wendy has given me quite a few practice rounds. It's worth reversing uphill, so Rusty is an absolute breeze. There are so many dips and little eroded areas here that you don't want to drive through because you don't want to damage the soil even more. I'm actually very careful about where we drive when we go off-road. Still just looking for that little flick of a tail or an ear popping up. Just anything that gives away the position of the lines. And of course now when we get to the area, they keep quiet. But if they're lying down here, the grass this long, we'll have a tough time finding them. That's why I'm hoping they are on a carcass. I should just be able to hear them feeding, fighting a little bit. My feet's so wet, my sole keeps slipping off the clutch. Nearly went straight into that weeping wattle. That brings us to a halt. I know guests enjoy it when we go off-road because they're always quite surprised by what the vehicles can do, but we don't really like it too much, to be honest.
Welcome back to Eco Training Prylands. At the moment we're sitting at the hyena den in the hope that they're going to pop their heads out and come and use a little bit of sun that's available at the moment just to heat themselves up a little bit. Some of the things that I just wanted to point out around the den site, if you'll notice in the top part of the den entrance, there's a large number of small little holes that's been created by little bee eaters, which is one of the smallest bee eater species in the world. We often will find these little bee eaters perched up quite close by to the hyena den as well. They have nested here in the past. We also quite often find them on colder days where they will actually huddle up together by sitting close by to one another and using one another's body heat. As the name bee eater implies, they actually specialize in feeding in bees mostly. And one of the things that we do see is that the bill is specifically adapted to feeding on bees. And many of the bee eaters all have decurved bills, or bills that are pointing slightly downwards and which is elongated. And the reason is if you don't have a long enough bill, you're going to be stung by the bee in the face. So what they will normally do once they've caught a bee in midair is land on the closest branch and then wipe the sting out from the bee and then only consume it. We also find that they're quite often confused with a similar looking bee eater, which is known as a swallow-tailed bee eater. They're not very common in this area, and I've once or twice actually have seen them in Lowveld. However, if we do go to the arid western half of South Africa, the species is more common. And then strangely enough, just on the other side of the Lebombo Mountains in Mozambique, we do find them to be quite prominent again. It's not the only birds that uses den sites of that's a number of different species that makes holes. We also find that species such as Southern African shelduck as well as southern ant-eating chats will also use burrow systems for nesting sites. And then a little bit closer to us, over here in front of us, we also see the hyenas also have a liking for gardening, and they keep their little house pretty. And there's some blue camellinas and yellow camellinas that's growing over here. And many of the camellia species are also quite often used for bathing eyes that are sore. And then also on the log that you can see there's little shelf-like structures. Those are known as bracket or shelf fungi. And as we were discussing fungi earlier on, we were discussing the different number of strategies that they will utilize to actually gain food. Just to recap on that, those might be saprophytes, in this case where they live off dead plant material or animal material, or in terms of mutualistic relationships, or the third process that they will follow to gain nourishment is actually as parasites on live animal or plants. We're going to sit here for a little bit longer and see if our hyenas are going to pop out. If not, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find. Good morning, Samantha Jones, and welcome to the show. To answer your question, I can't actually honestly answer you if there's any species that has been used for medicinal purposes. However, there is a number of people that will use them indiscriminately for hallucinogenic purposes so that they can get on into a high. I would rather not recommend doing that. Well, just before we link over to Lauren, something that just came up to mind, and something very simple. Yes, mushrooms do often get used for medicinal purposes. I overlook something as simple as penicillin. Well, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
Now we've done a complete loop and no luck. I'm a little bit puzzled as to where everyone's moving, but the sun has come out. We've got blue sky, a little bit of warmth. It's been a chilly morning. The birds are soaring. The insects are starting to buzz. So that, I must say, is very good news. So I think we're just going to complete one road that we've left out of the eastern slice of the reserve, I like to call it. And then slowly bumble back to quarantine. Where is everyone? But it leaves lots of promise for this afternoon, especially if the sun really does come out and start to dry up some of the soggy roads. Dobby's got a gut feeling about Mamba, and I always say don't ignore your gut. So I'm going to take you to Mamba, Dov. We've done Central. We haven't actually done Battler. Okay. We've done all but 2 roads. My apologies, I was rather inaccurate there. But Hart was on Mamba yesterday with a very, very full belly, so we're going to go back down that way and see if we can spot anything, really. Mamba Loop's a really good road, actually, and Tlalamba did use Mamba the first time around, not with this litter, the other litter, and unfortunately did not make it. She used Mamba Loop drainage line as her downside. But remember, Tlalamba still got to hunt, still got to feed, and she's still got to go on territorial patrol. Absolutely. She's still got to be visible. And I say visible, I'm not necessarily meaning by eye. She's still got to be present, in the area. Scent marking, calling. She's still a territorial female. And just because she's denning and she's got cubs, she doesn't want to stop that. Because then other females in the area may push in and think, oh, nobody's here. I'm going to push in a little bit to Juma. I've heard it's great, Juma. She's still got to keep up her territorial boundaries. So we should start to see signs of her, hopefully hear her. And unfortunately, I don't have chemoreceptors. I would love that. Imagine we track through scent. That's what they do. Imagine if we found leopards that way. I've got a good sense of smell, but it's not that good. Humans are not chemical. We will stop and appreciate you. The paradox.
Wait, what do you have?
Lilac-breasted roller, one of the most beautiful birds in the bush, but as I always say, the ugliest call. Bit of a contradiction within itself. But now that the sun is out, what that means is it's starting to warm up. Insects are starting to buzz and fly around. And of course, that's what the lilac-breasted rollers want. They're not migrants, as many of you know. They don't disappear and come back again. They are residents, so they're here all year round. And if you think about that, it must be such a challenge for those birds, because you really have got such a buffet right now, such a feast. I mean, the insect life is not as abundant as it has been in the past. I'm wondering if it's still going to flourish. But there are a lot of insects around, and that's exactly what the lilac-breasted roller is doing. Feasting, feasting, feasting. Grasshoppers, beetles, katydids. Bisa, you're seeing such a beautiful sighting. Well, it was, absolutely, that's for sure. It was. But sadly now, it is over. But it's probably drying off, warming up, and the insects are buzzing. And just to wrap up on my thought there, it's such a, when you go into winter, they have to adapt. They have to adapt their diet because the insect life just diminishes. Yes, you'll still see ants, you'll maybe still see the occasional butterfly, but in comparison to summer, it's the complete opposite. So the lilac-breasted rollers really do have to feast in summer, enjoy it, make the most of it, and then of course they're going to have to adapt and just work with what's available in winter. think either, to be honest. I don't think any organism would have anything that would attract predators. But I don't think the bright colors of a lilac-breasted roller attract or repel predators. You've got to remember lots of different organisms, and it depends what predators you're talking about, don't see how we see. Birds' eyesight, they don't see colors like we see. I was on a fantastic website the other day that tried to show you how we see a picture and how a bird sees the picture. And obviously we don't 100% know how a bird sees, but just using the knowledge that we do have, and it was unbelievable to just look at the contrast. They don't see how we see. So the colors that we see, they see completely different spectrums, and some colors they will see, some they won't see, and therefore just because we see this beautiful palette of colors, it doesn't mean that that's how a predator is going to view it. Even terrestrial predators, they also don't see how we see. Their vision's not adapted in the same way that it is for us as humans on land. So I don't think it repels or attracts predators. Okay, Davi, we're almost on Mamba. Are we gonna get lucky? Who knows? Rule number 1, always check behind you, especially when at a junction. You've been caught out a few times with that. Checking, following tracks, looking, and then the animal was behind you. Sia. You're saying today may be a slow day. Yup, absolutely. But at least I have a very cool hat. Thank you. It's actually still soaking wet from yesterday. It was a little bit depressing to put it on this morning. But it's drying off slowly. Thank you, Sia. At least I have a really cool hat. At least I'm driving. I'm just happy that I'm driving, not on dam cam. I'm not going to talk about Egyptian geese for the next week, okay, FC? Unless we see a really cute sighting of the chicks. I got those comms about 1 out of 5. Did you get them, Dov? Negative. Oh dear. But if the sun really does come out, I'm going to let Wendy dry out a bit. She's getting a bit stinky. But yes, at least I've got a cool hat, and at least I'm just happy to be out, and I feel like I'm a bit behind, and that's why I've done a lot of driving. I know you've probably seen a lot of the back of my head. I do apologize, but I need to figure out where animals are moving, and once we start to know where they're all moving, it's going to pick up a little bit. And because of the rain, a lot of vehicles have not been out, and naturally Juma is just very quiet these days, which is rather unfortunate. I've loved working with Benotti and Vexen and Aubrey and Taxon back in the day. Mike. It's like you set out in the morning. I love the sunrise safari, and you sort of divide up the reserve. Okay, I always take Twin Dams Road. They know that. They don't even have to ask me. They're like, are you checking on the Misi? Yes, I'm checking on the Misi. And someone will take Rotella access. Someone normally goes up Gallagher Shortcut. Someone normally goes south down Zoe's. We give them the updates if anything's happened on the dam cam. And you sort of all work it together. Those mornings are the best. And although we say Juma's small, it is small in comparison to a lot of other properties, but it's also a big property to cover the whole area. Ravi, how are you feeling about Mamba right now?
It's awfully quiet.
It's awfully quiet, yes, I agree. The hibiscus are in bloom. Comelinas. I haven't seen so many roadside pimpernels, I must say. Maybe we should do a bit of a flower drive. Red star zinnias everywhere. Strings of stars also not out. Normally we have seas of them. It's like you're swimming in an ocean of the strings of stars, and the smell is delicious. It always makes me hungry. I'm trying to think what other flowers I can see right now. Devil's thorn, not seen too many of them either. Seen 0 lilies, my favorite. The candy striped lilies, I love them. I haven't seen any of them yet. Ah, there's a roadside pimpernel. Okay, Darby's choice of mamba hasn't been fruitful, so we're going to decide where to go next.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're just driving between the areas where we normally find a lot of animals, and we're just going to focus on another dam. We also find that finding animals are quite tricky at the moment, and as you can notice, the vegetation is incredibly thick and lush, and that's due to the high amount of rainfall which we experience at the time of the year. So if you are keen to come out on a safari to South Africa, for me personally, one of the best times of the year to go on safari is actually between the months of April and October to November. When the vegetation is less thick, your chances to see game is much easier. And at those times of the year, for the low-veld region of South Africa, we also will find that it's much drier, and therefore animals will be concentrated around larger dams and permanent water structures, making it a little bit easier to find them. For those who are concerned of traveling at that time of the year due to malaria, that time of the year actually houses a very low chance of actually ever contracting malaria. In general, the low-veld region of South Africa has malaria, but in very, very low numbers. And chances of being exposed to it is also very small. Some of the other things that I do really like about the winter is that the temperatures is much cooler, and therefore the activity period of the animals also tend to be much longer. What I do find quite great about this time of the year is that there's a lot of young animals around, and that's for me normally highlighted about the summer months, and also the large number of migratory birds that make their way into South Africa.
I went for another walk. My shoes are soaked. Didn't hear a thing. Didn't see any more trucks coming further east. So I'm convinced they're in the block here somewhere, but yeah, I can't spend an hour on foot just walking around here. So what we might do is chat to Mike at Juma, and then maybe come for a walk here with him in between drives and see if we can actually track them down. Yeah, everything here has gone extremely quiet. We are now actually just on the other side of the drainage line, back on the road, and stopping every now and then just to listen. Anna Marie scary. I've actually never had a very bad encounter. I was charged once by 2 Birmingham lionesses. They were at a den site, actually the den of where the white lioness was born. It was about 3 years ago. And yeah, I don't know, it wasn't really scary because we've already kind of walked past them. So the old lioness and white dot lioness, they came charging and stopped pretty much 20 meters away or so, and then just turned around and walked back. It's almost like saying, okay, we've seen you, we know you're here, and yeah, but nothing really bad. And we've walked lots of den sites. I remember the young lioness from Birmingham Pride also, when she gave birth, I think I must have been 5 meters away from her in her den site with both youngsters once, and she just carried on sleeping, bizarrely enough.
I was with you, I think.
You were there as well. Sean Marshall was there. I remember standing in the riverbed, pretty much next to it, and whistling to Sean and telling him please bring the vehicle, and he had to park the vehicle in between me and the den because I didn't want to move. Of course we were walking on sand, so I didn't want to take another footstep, and the sand crashing beneath my foot makes a noise. But I've never really had a bad charge when an entire pride charges at me and then starts roaring, anything like that. Dimpo, there really shouldn't be. It's just that humans make this fatal error that they start feeding animals, and then you'll find the interaction. Otherwise, no, there's no natural interaction of animals and humans in the bush. I'm actually just trying to listen to any sound of the lions that'd be off to our right now in the direction that you guys are facing. Spend another 5 or so minutes here and then start heading back towards camp. Oh, sounds like Lauren found what she was looking for. We're going to send you over there while we try find what we were looking for.
She's still, where is she?
I can't see her, look.
We did have a hyena. We had Heart. We don't right now, but we can try and be locator. Heart, why are you not at the den? I'm not so happy with the Juma clan right now. Igor, in the thicket. I think we might have missed our moment. But let's try. We checked the den again. It was 3 times this morning. 1 in the first hour, 1 in the second hour, 1 in the third hour, and it's not active. Heart, darling. Where did you go? Ah, there you are. Looking fabulous. She doesn't like to be followed by vehicles, Heart. I've always known this. Not that she doesn't like, I just will give her some space. She is heading in the direction of the den. This is exactly what happened to us yesterday before we got seriously rained on. And this is her, when she first saw the vehicle, she goes off in the thicket. Hyenas also don't really like to walk in the long grass, especially when it's wet. They like to be on roads. So we're just going to give her a bit of space, and then hopefully, we're not too far from the den, we just checked it. Wouldn't that be nice if we got a den sighting with Heart and Mini Heart? Is she still on the road, Dov? Did you see her? Let's just get to the junction. Ah, she's there. She's going to the den. She's taking the shortcut that we can't take. Right through that drainage line. That's who's been making that animal pathway. I've seen that sort of path is starting to appear as if something is moving there constantly, and I think it's the Juma clan. This is how they cut from the Dane sort of onto Weaver's Nest, if you like. She's taking the shortcut. Jolly good idea, Heart. We'll go the long way. The den is just there, but it's through that drainage line. Now, I've been in that drainage line many times, but definitely not going in it today. When Damon and Grant from Pinda came to visit us, that's actually right there where we had the most wonderful Kalamba sighting. They just kept on giving and giving. It's been so wonderful. Again, it's just right there, right next to the hyena den. Excuse me. Ben, you're saying yay, patience is certainly a virtue. Indeed, just twice I bumped into Heart in the middle of the road. When she's alone. And Heart was always with Corky for a while. I think Corky's also dating, I'm sure of it. I know I've already said it. Getting ready to have high-ranked offspring this time. That's what Corky wants. Okay, I'm going to do my very best to sit at the den, wait for Heart, and I believe Rowan has also had some luck.
See my smoke in there?
No.
Okay.
Keep playing it away.
Okay, and we have found him. It took long enough. So, I've got a view of 4 cubs and 2 lionesses. Actually 3 lionesses, saw another tail twitching. But gee whiz, what an effort. Again, worth it in the end. Just sure, it took quite a bit of time. I'm exhausted now. It's like when there's all that excitement, that adrenaline. And then when you eventually find them, it's just like, oh, blow out relief. But yeah, here are the Nkuhumas. So they are lying in a very, very tough spot. I'm not too sure. From the tracks, it seemed like there was a male walking with them. He might just be a little bit further into the drainage line. See, that cub is now trying to go for a drink. See how quickly the lioness is moving. So they were on something. They definitely ate something. But it must have been something maybe small that they stopped feeding now. You even see from some of the cubs. Actually, sorry, Odie. Can you just go to this first cub, the one on the right, you can actually see the belly. It's almost like it's lying on its back, trying to digest. So yeah, they definitely ate something. I have no idea what it was. I'm not going to go walking in here again to go find what they were eating. It might be that the male is still around the carcass, or what remains of the carcass. But whew, guys, you were hard to find. Beautiful cubs though. How old are they now? Half a year? About 6 months. You like it by looking at the size. Maybe a little bit older, 6 to 8 months. Henry J, absolutely, perseverance is everything. You kind of, and I'll be very honest, I mean, I was losing my optimism, and I know what I heard. It's just judging that sound was so tough because of basically the environment we're in. But yeah, it pays off to just carry on and try and try and try. But they are lying in a very, very tough spot. You see this one cub right in front of us, not really taking its eye off us yet. Just keep staring straight at us. Bit of a tough bush in front of the eyes, but slowly starting to fall asleep, but still just watching us. Beautiful eyes though, it's like amber colored. So if they have a carcass here, quite a good spot to have a carcass, because I can imagine they dragged it to under a bush, so no vultures really coming into the area, they won't be able to see it. But then if I heard this, I can imagine that a hyena would have heard it as well. But you've got, it looked like 3 or 4 adults here, so you'd have to be a very brave hyena to come into this area.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment, we're just going to do a short little silent segment on the grasses and the surrounding landscape. And just before we go into that silent segment and share all the different sounds of the background of you, these dense grasses has now become home to a number of different species of birds. And some of the bird species that we've seen loving this thick grass is both harlequin quail as well as common button quail. That's what's been previously known as a Cochin button quail. These little birds, they actually will disappear very quickly into these grasses once they've been flushed. And they feel safe inside there. It's also pretty amazing. We've been managing to actually see some of their chicks around here as well lately. And the chick is barely the size of a tip of my thumb.
been so wonderful. We watched Hart arrive at the den. We made it first. We were competing hard and you didn't even know that, I know. Then she called out the cub and it's so nice. They use this really low sound to call the cub out. Then her cub came out and then the two other cubs came out. We had everybody here. But now I think they have settled down since the old milk bar is open. And this stump gets in the way every time, but we tried to position this so that you can see everything. Oh, we're doing some grooming. Oh, so nice to just see her. I love when they come and call out the cubs. There's something quite special about that. Mommy's here. Come on out now. It's nice to see Hart being a mommy again. The last time round it was to Pumela and Gingarika. She was on her way here yesterday as well. Greg, I mean, that's a good question. I guess they do. But will they always adhere to that, especially when they get older? Probably not. They will come out to get fresh air and dry off and get some vitamin D in the sun. They should stay at their entrance. I think they very much know they shouldn't. But as they get older and older, I'm afraid they start to not follow those rules, and that's what gets them in trouble. They want to explore, they want to smell everything, they want to chew everything, they want to know what's going on, they want to play. But sadly, that leaves them very, very vulnerable. I mentioned this the other day, but I once had a sighting with Shadulu, and she was stalking the cubs. I'm sure it was in Gwazi, Shimbulu, and I want to say Braveheart. All sitting outside Philemon's Den, 3, no adults. We were following Shadulu, and she was stalking them. They saw her and ran inside, but they're vulnerable. I just find Dane sightings just so peaceful. You gotta love that stump. Do you love it, Doc? Would you like me to move? Or shall we work with it?
You can try it.
Move.
Try and go forward a bit.
Forward a bit, okay. There we go. I always feel Hart's got quite a distinctive face. The way I recognize her when she's sort of looking head on is the ear notches. She's got quite distinctive notches in her ears. There's some fresh blood on one of her ears as well. I wonder what's happened there. But it's getting really hot, and I mean, we're almost at 8:30 here in South Africa. And she's lying in the sun, so I don't imagine she's going to stay here for too long. Okay, we're just going to spend a few more minutes watching this lovely scene at the hyena den.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands, and at this time of year there's a lot of grasses that are actually having seeds on them. We refer to that generally as inflorescence. When the inflorescence is on the grasses, it actually makes for identification of grasses very easy. So as field guides, we do have to have a good knowledge and understanding of grasses, as we find that the palatability of these grasses and palatability levels of different grasses also influences the type of animals that we do find within our environment. And as far as I know, grasses almost cover 70% of our planet, and they form an incredibly valuable food source for many animals out here. The grass that we're looking at the moment is known as a bushveld signal grass. And the reason why it's called signal grass, because it resembles a railway signal that they used to use in the past. These grasses, they also use the seeds for these, and they have in the past been used for making into a porridge. We also find that species such as hippopotamus loves this grass, and where they do feed, they actually create lawn-like pastures. We also find that these seeds are often utilized by species such as red-billed quelea, which is one of the most abundant flocking species of birds on the planet, and they can form flocks of into their millions. I've once actually watched a group for over 45 minutes flying from north to south in a non-stop movement. And often we also see that they swarm in large groups, where those in the back will then swoop in underneath and those at the back comes forward. And that's one of my favorite things to actually watch them doing when they are flying. A few things that we do find about red-billed quelias is at this time of the year, they often will nest in areas where there is a large abundance of food. And we also find that when it comes to the chicks, we have to feed them insects. However, the adults will feed on the grasses. We sometimes find up to 200, 300 nests in a single tree, and they love to utilize knob fawns. As with the knob fawns, it has fawns, which makes it a little bit more difficult for predators to get in there. However, it doesn't stop snakes and a number of small mammals which do get into those nests. And I've even noticed species such as armored ground crickets entering those nests and then feeding on the chicks.
Okay, so they've woken up. One lioness actually went in front of us, went for a drink. I've counted 6 cubs. So here's one of the mothers coming towards us, followed by a youngster. Might actually just relax. Sorry, no, not one of the mothers. Quite large lionesses. Cute little cub. Oh, big yawn. I think they will head to one of these pan systems and actually go for a drink. How beautiful is that light on this lioness? She's quite pale. You can see how deeply she's breathing. And all the cubs to that right, just trying to snuggle in there. A big shake of the head. Okay, so she's gonna park off there. I think quite nice, much better view than earlier.
But they crossed the devil towards the Chagos fence area. So I'm sure there's around there. Only a couple of them.
Doc, I'm glad we got to make your morning. Yeah, 2.5 hours of persevering and finally got them. Definitely, again, worth it.
No, they're far from nothing to just maybe 100 meters now. So they get
oh, shame. She's going to get very hot soon, this lioness. You can actually, so I know we focus on the cubs, but her tail keeps swishing up and down to try to get rid of flies. There's the other one coming back that went for a drink to your right. Odie, just behind the cluster leaf here. Let me try and move that. Actually, no, you're fine. There we go. So she'll just walk straight in front of the vehicle and probably go settle with the rest of them. Yeah, that's about 3 meters from the bonnet. Yeah, so 6 youngsters and looks like 2 mothers. It sounds like all the viewers are very happy to see this pride and saying it's been quite a while. So this is my first time seeing the Nkuhumas, and again, spending so much time on Ngala, we always hear Nkuhumas, so it's quite nice to actually be acquainted with them. Odie was saying it's been, 18 months since you saw them. It's a soft contact call now. So that, ooh. I wonder who she's calling. Which are absolutely wonderful. So I think even our plan for the afternoon would be to come back here and just check what they're up to. They might move and shift a little bit just for more shady conditions, or actually go towards the pan system, go for a drink. But I'm sure, after 2.5 hours of tracking this morning, we should be able to find them this afternoon, fingers crossed. But geez, we nearly gave up there. Nearly gave up. Bless you. So I haven't really been able to have a good look at the pride. I know of the youngsters there are 1 or 2 males. This is me judging by the width of the face compared to some of the females, but this one's going for a drink. But yeah, hopefully this afternoon they'll be a bit more mobile, walking around and playing. So then you'd be able to count how many males, how many females of these youngsters. Actually, probably a few of you might know, of the 6 cubs, how many are female, how many are male. But we'll leave that question for this afternoon when we head back here. That cute little paw trying to push out more milk. But guys, yeah, thanks so much for joining us again this morning. It did turn out to be amazing, and we'll see you in the afternoon.